Welcome, good fighters. We're coming at you today with connection, intention, and purpose with another special guest. This time, Dr. Nash is outnumbered with the Wellness Way crew coming in hot. Dr. Beth Cook out of the Wellness Way Spring, which is near Houston. She's coming in to talk about not only some of the stuff that we've already talked about as far as what the Wellness Way does, but more specifically a lot of female health in regards to hormones and all that kind of stuff. Dr. Beth, we're super grateful to have you on and to be able to share with some of our listeners about what it is that you do, because you do it highly successfully, as you know the Wellness Way always does. So we're very grateful to have you on today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. I wanted to know if you could walk us through kind of, how you got involved with the Wellness Way, especially being a female yourself, because there's things that you're going to be able to connect with female patients way more than I ever could. So I wondered if you could walk us through that story a little bit and how you became a part of the Wellness Way and what you're working towards now.
Sure. I always say that the Wellness Way fell in my lap because it literally did. I was working with, I was buying out a doctor that I was working with. And like a month before the buyout happened, he was like, "Hey, I joined this thing called the Wellness Way." I was like, "What? Like, what are you doing to me?" I mean, the Wellness Way is, if you're listening and you're a chiropractor, like you have protocols and kind of just your daily routine that you follow. And so, the Wellness Way is like a total disruption to that. It is labs and herbs and all this stuff that you don't know anything about, or you knew a little bit about, but not enough to really own it and, give recommendations. And so I was a little frustrated, to say the least. I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I had a handful of Wellness Way patients. I say Wellness Way patients because I had heavy chiropractic rehab practice, insurance. That's mainly what I did.
A big difference.
Yeah. And so I had these like little couple Wellness Way patients. I think one of them I actually still see. I go back to her chart and it's like 2016. I'm like, dang, she's still with me. But that was separate. It was like I had my Wellness Way patients and I had my chiropractic patients. Now it's all one thing. But the Wellness Way back then, I'm not like an OG, but I'm an OG.
As close as you can get.
It was, what's the right word I'm trying to think of here? It was amateurish, the training, the coaching. I would call Dr. Jason and be like, "Dr. Jason, this is what my patient has. What do I do?" He would be like, "Do this."
So you knew Dr. Pat when he had hair?
No, I'm not that OG.
Oh,
not that OG. No, but, anyway, I would call Dr. Jason and he'd be like, "Do that." I'm like, "Okay." And then I'd get the lab and what do I do? Do this. Okay. So, I did that for a while. And then 2017, I went to my first Wellness Way conference. And that's when I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is what I need in my life. I had chronic infections. I had chronic sinus infections. I had all these issues. So started testing myself, started taking herbs, started doing all those things. And, the rest is history. So no longer, I transitioned. I left that. I closed that practice. Middle of COVID, I opened here in spring, started over. I mean, I started from scratch. Wow. So I had a handful of patients follow me where my practice is now and where it was. It's about 30-minute drive. So I have some diehards, ride or die patients that follow me over here. But, so that's how I started with the Wellness Way. Kind of a crazy story, but, I'm incredibly blessed that it fell in my lap because, it is exactly how I wanted to practice when I went to chiropractic school. And, you're in that little bubble and you think chiropractic's going to heal the world. And then you get all these people that are like, "My neck hurts." I'm like, what?
I just adjusted you.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very similar to my wife's story too, because I had been introduced to it in school, but I didn't really know a lot about it. And then I went to the first conference and I was like, this is what I'm looking for, especially because not just for patients in the future, but for my wife especially, there were pieces that I knew she needed that I didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
And so it just filled a lot of gaps for me in that way. And I know Dr. Nash and I go back and forth, and we always talk about different testing and different stuff. And I mean, we were just talking about a patient the other day, and
Yep.
it really is amazing the capacity that you do have as a doctor to be able to say, okay, we're getting them adjusted. We're working on 3Ts. We're getting everything resolved to get people back to physiologically normal so that they can live their best life. And so that's
Right.
one of the biggest things that I love. And you specifically, when you deal with women and some of the hormonal stuff, you know, as more of a niche of your practice is, we need that so desperately in today's healthcare.
Yes. Yeah, we do for sure. Yeah. I
And
mean, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, from my perspective, not being a Wellness Way associate, but you know, the more I get to be around, you know, not just Gates but other Wellness Way representatives, and I actually had the opportunity to listen to Dr. Flynn at an Informed Choice Iowa conference back in November.
Yeah, I heard about that.
It was great. I mean, Gates and I talk about all the time. That dude could literally move mountains with his words. It's awesome.
Yeah, you can.
And you know, from my perspective too, I truly believe that the toxin side of the 3Ts is one of the least understood aspects on ways that we can help people reduce stress on the nervous system. And that's literally, like I said, I'm an unbiased person. And when it comes to Wellness Way, I truly believe that that the Wellness Way does it better than anybody.
Right.
And that's the future when it comes to, ultimately getting people to live life full of expression.
And in the Wellness Way, we talk too a lot about like how we're not functional medicine, and I think that is something important that I try to emphasize to people around me, is that I get to utilize chiropractic and chiropractic philosophy and 3Ts and adjust your spine and introduce people that are coming to my office that are like, I don't know about the chiropractic thing. And I'm like, it's all right. I'm going to take x-rays. I'm going to show you your spine. We're going to get you adjusted, and you'll be on board. You'll want to get adjusted, but I just think it's cool that, we get to utilize that aspect, not just, we get to do all of the T's, we don't just get to adjust patients and then give them a supplement. That's what I used to do. But I just see the huge difference. But yeah, you're right. The toxin part of it is less understood, and how do we address it, and how do you test it, and what do you do about it? So Wellness Way is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering if you could touch on that, especially because we were talking a little bit about birth control prior to this and the toxins approach to that, having that conversation with your patients in female healthcare today, because it's such a driving force. A 12-year-old has acne, birth control or whatnot. It's just crazy how much stuff is going on. So I wondered if you could kind of give our listeners a perspective from where you're at as a practitioner, trying to help these young girls and these women that are, even if they're coming off of birth control and kind of getting their cycle back normal, how they're supposed to thrive.
Yeah, I could talk for hours about birth control. I mean, I personally, I was put on birth control when I was like 14 for acne. And I would say I have a patient right now. I have two patients that I'm thinking of, but younger than 20, had acne, have been on birth control for, a couple years, and now they're depressed. They can't get out of bed. They are gaining weight. They have all these immune system issues. Like this one patient of mine gets sick like every 2 months.
Oh.
And I've had to have hard conversations with her and her mom. Like, I know that the acne is something that is, feels important to you, and I get it. I was there, but this birth control is ruining your body. I mean, it is ruining your health and ruining your body. And forget the acne, you can't get out of bed, then what's the point, So, so it's sometimes it's hard conversations, because women that come to see me that are taking birth control, I would say the majority of women don't take birth control to prevent pregnancy. They're taking it for symptoms. They have hard periods, or they have acne, or they have really heavy bleeding, or don't have a period. And so I have to have hard conversations with them about, I get it. been there, done that. I understand why you're taking it. I understand this is the only solution that's been given to you. But there are so many things that we can do to help restore your health and your hormones so that you don't have to be on birth control anymore. So I see a lot of people that come in to see me. They may not be open to it at first, but usually by the time we get testing back and we start making changes to their health, they're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get this crap out of my body. A lot of women don't want to take it, but they don't know what else to do. They're like, this is what my doctor told me. I've seen women that are on like 3 different birth controls at one time to control what's happening to them. And it is very detrimental to your health. It is not just this like no big deal. I think that's what we're, as a woman, that was my perception of birth control before I knew what I know now, is that it was like, oh, no big deal, it's just birth control. It's not going to hurt me,
Yeah. Super
and
simple.
that cycle that you talked about too, you get on birth control, then you become depressed, then you get an SSRI. And then that's just at like when you're 20s.
Yes.
Think about after.
I have many patients like that right now, that they are on anti-anxiety or antidepressant medication because they don't know what else to do. They're either they're not putting the puzzle pieces together either. They're not even thinking that birth control is having any impact on them in that way, so sometimes I have to kind of put those puzzle pieces together for them and show them that, all this started kind of when you started taking birth control. Interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's something that it blows my mind. But at the same time, it's like you said, they don't have any other options. They're not given any other choices or told anything about how good their body can actually feel when they're producing a normal cycle and they're not having anything interfering it. And I think that's what I love most about it, when people come in, and even if it's like their first consult or something like that, and we've gone through food allergies, adjustments, all that kind of stuff, and then they're just like, I feel great. And it's like the beginning portion of their care. And like you said, they hop on board and they're like, if this is how I feel at the beginning, I can't imagine to when I feel like 5 years from now when I keep working on this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. In regards to that too, because we talk a lot about women going through menopause and how much women just like dread menopause and hot flashes, all that kind of stuff. Can you kind of touch on it and maybe connect the dots from that moment to when young girls are being put on birth control and living their entire life to the moment of when menopause comes, and how that hormone cycle, their whole life hasn't been set up for success, and then they hit that. Can you kind of go through that kind of process and then how you treat women that are going through that?
Sure. So I would say there's women in 2 boats. One is they've had a hysterectomy and they've had it maybe at an appropriate age. I mean, I don't know if that's even, is a hysterectomy ever really appropriate? I'm not sure, but I'm sure there are very small circumstances it is. But they've had a hysterectomy young, and then, now they're experiencing all of these issues. They're 55 and hot flashes and night sweats, and they're gaining weight and can't sleep and all these things. Or, they've had horrible periods their whole life, and then finally they go through menopause. So, I always explain to them, especially if you've had a hysterectomy, my first question is always, why did you have a hysterectomy? Oh, I had horrible, horrible periods. I was bleeding all the time. I was bleeding for weeks at a time, or I had a huge fibroid, or I had cyst, or whatever it is. And I say, okay, so that means you had inflammation. You have inflammation inside of your body that is creating all of these things. Were you seeing a chiropractor? No. Were you, changing your diet? No. Were you, taking any supplements or managing stress or anything like that? No. Okay. So then you have a lot of inflammation that has been not dealt with, or not addressed, or not found. And so now you're here. Nothing has changed except for the fact that somebody's removed an organ from your body. But the organ was not the problem, right? The inflammation was the problem. So it is as simple as addressing those inflammatory factors and helping them to find where that inflammation is coming from. It's always eye-opening to women when, like, they've had an ablation. Are you familiar with an ablation?
Mm-hmm.
So they go in
I'm
and
not.
they're like, they go in and they like burn the lining of your uterus.
Got it.
Essentially, instead of doing a hysterectomy, they do an ablation to
For sure.
stop the symptoms. So it's always interesting to me to show a woman who's either had an ablation or hysterectomy, show them their Dutch test, which is a urine hormone test that we do. And I'm like, look at these massive amount of estrogens you have. You don't have a period anymore. You don't have a uterus anymore, but you still have this huge production of hormones. No wonder you're having so many issues. Thank goodness you came to see me,
Right.
so we can address these issues now, and you're not, looking in the future and having breast cancer or ovarian cancer or something like that.
Right.
So it is as simple as addressing those inflammatory factors and kind of figuring out why they were having issues in the first place. Women that get to menopause, I think they assume that it's just going to be good now because I don't have a period, and they get to menopause and it's the complete opposite. And it's just because those inflammatory factors have never been dealt with. They've never been addressed. They've never been looked at. Their doctors have always told them, this is just normal, part of life. You're fine. Here's some hormones. and then they're stuck feeling miserable, I think menopause is the time of life where that's like the best time in a woman's life. You're not cycling anymore. Your hormones are consistent. Kids are gone. It's just you and your spouse, like you have some freedom again. You shouldn't be living that life miserable. That's not
Absolutely.
a way to live.
Absolutely. One thing that I always try to tell patients is just to, like, if you've had a hysterectomy, your brain doesn't know that. Like, it still believes that organ is there, and it throws just everything out of whack.
Yeah, your body goes into shock, basically.
Yeah. And it's crazy to me that the doctors, will just perform this and then just go on your merry way. There's no instruction for life afterwards and for what's to come next. So, that's where we have such a unique capacity to be able to help people. And even if they've had that history.
And even if you have been on birth control for a long time, or you've had a hysterectomy, there are still things that we can do that are going to help your body function better. So
absolutely.
Not miserable.
Absolutely. Control what you can, because the rest is already done. Dr. Nash, did you have any questions based on?
I kind of did. And it's a little bit more general than anything specifically as far as, based off of hormones or even hysterectomies or endometriosis or anything like that. But I kind of was curious, as a male, sometimes when you have certain female people coming in and they're explaining certain things of what they have going on, as a male, sometimes it's hard to approach them with solutions or answers, because as men, we want to fix things. And I don't know if there's a certain way that, as a woman, how you perceive that differently with what you're able to provide them with answers wise, because ultimately I'm really trying to give them different answers or different perspectives. But I just didn't know if there's certain ways of communicating that you utilize, Dr. Beth.
I mean, for me personally, I guess it's just empathy,
Okay. Yeah.
Just being empathetic with them. And as a man, you can do the same exact thing, because if you have a mom or a sister or an aunt or a spouse, a wife, then you have that relationship with women that can give you the empathy that you need to see these women and realize, just the stress and duress that they're under. And if you come from it from that standpoint, that will help them attend too, because then they can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's finally somebody that's listening to me. There's finally somebody that's going to be able to help me. I think most women that come to see me are super frustrated because they have these expectations that they're going to go to their OBGYN and that's going to be their answer, right? She's going to be able to help me. He's going to be able to help me. He's going to be able to give me the solutions I need. And that's just not the case. It is complete opposite of what happens. And so if you can show them empathy and understanding and say, I get it. It sounds awful. Let's figure out, what we can do to help you better.
Absolutely. I
That's
think one of the
great.
most frustrating parts as a guy is when these females come into my office and their husbands don't support them. And it's the biggest frustration when you have these ladies that are across your table and you can see the pain and the hurt in their eyes and they're trying to, keep their head above water, and a lot of the source, as Doc always says, right? Like the men are stressing the women out all the time, right? And it's so true. And it just makes me so angry sometimes. So this is for all you listeners. If you're listening and you're a guy, and you have a spouse or a girlfriend, support your lady, because I'm tired of seeing these ladies come across my table without men supporting their healthcare decisions. So
yeah, I have a lot of women that bring their husbands with them, or I say, bring your husband with you, because maybe hearing it from me, it'll be different. I had a patient last week, and I'm going through her labs. She's on birth control. She doesn't want to have another baby. She, husband doesn't want to have a vasectomy. She doesn't know what to do. I'm actually going to I started reading this book because I'm going to start teaching fertility tracking in my office, I think, but because these women need an option, and I said, look, go home and show him your labs. Say, look at this. He doesn't even have to understand what the lab says. All he's going to do is see all the red on the lab.
Right. Yeah.
And say, Dr. Beth said that most of this is because of the birth control that I'm on. So I can't stay on it. We have to figure something out. So yeah, bring your husband with you, or bring them to a talk, or show them a reel, or, something so that they can sort of understand. But I actually had a new patient yesterday. She made a comment about how she had a hysterectomy at 40 because her mom had ovarian cancer. That's the only reason she had a hysterectomy. And I know. And so now since then she has had all these issues. Now she's 50. And she said to me, she was like, thank goodness my husband has finally given me some grace. He's finally realized that I'm not staying in bed because I'm lazy. It's because I physically cannot get out of bed at that time. And my body just I get to my deep sleep when I fall back asleep at 4:30 in the morning,
Right.
And I just thought, my heart just broke for her, that for all these years, her husband has been eye rolling her, just get out of bed,
Yeah.
I get it. He doesn't understand, but that is huge, Dr. Gates. That's huge that you have your spouse's support, for sure.
Absolutely. You mentioned your reels, and I want to touch on that because Dr. Beth has the most creative reels of anybody in the Wellness Way. I got to be honest. I love them. So if you're not following Dr. Beth on Instagram, you got to go.
Yeah, go follow me.
Yeah, we'll shout your stuff out at the end, but I do want to make note of that because the reels are really good, especially when you are able to bring information about health and do it over a reel that's in a captivating way. It's not easy to do because I know a lot of people, including myself, would probably just be super boring and dry trying to show health, and it's not the funnest thing.
Yeah, they're fun. I mean, it's just a really quick, fun way to show people what I do and what I love. And I did a reel about hysterectomies the other day, and so many people messaged me and they were like, oh my God, I was going to have one. Or this one lady was like, I don't know if I should cry or laugh because I finally understand why I feel the way I feel, because I had a hysterectomy and all those things that you mentioned, so yeah, I think it's just a good way. It's an attention grabbing way for people to kind of be like, oh, I didn't know that. And they're fun. They're fun for me to make. So
yeah. Can you walk through that process real quick? Because we do have a lot of students that listen to this. Yeah. And I'm sure that they probably know how to make reels, but especially when it comes to healthcare stuff, how do you make reels fun, engaging, and being able to provide that information at the same time?
Oh man.
You're probably I'm just so good at it.
No.
God given.
No, not at all. I think what I do is I always try to find a trending audio. And when I listen to the audio, I'm always thinking about, I specifically think about either inflammation or hormones. How can I use this to illustrate something funny and relatable about hormones or inflammation? I should do more reels that are informative, because I watch a lot of people that do reels that are more informative. I just have fun doing them. So I'm always doing I'm, like trying to be silly when I do them, but that's mainly what I do is I try to find a training audio. I listen to the audio and I'm like, ooh, I could do this, you know, and I think of a caption. I film like 5 in a day, you know, and then I mean, it's quick. They're 15 seconds. So, or shorter.
You got some creative capacity that I don't have.
Yeah. And you're one
I gotta
take
spend like
kind
a
of
week
girl.
on
I love it.
Yeah. I just like on a Friday afternoon, that's usually when I do it, is after I'm done seeing patients. I just go find some audio, record them. They're ready to go. Then I just have to go back and edit them. And
that's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start copying that formula. I like that. That's
good. Yeah, do it. The more people that know about the wellness way, the better.
Absolutely. Nash, did you have something you were gonna say?
No. Nope. You're good.
Okay. I was gonna ask about, because we talked about connection, intention, and purpose being our pillars here, and like I said before, in the wellness way, we talk about connection as like, you know, top thing, right? Can you kind of go over how you connect with patients the most, you know, and then also intention and purpose and how you deal with patients, but then also your life? Like, what does that look like for you? How would you define those in Dr. Beth's life?
Sure. I think being consistent is key. And so I try to be as consistent as an intentional as I can. I am not a disciplined person. And so sometimes that's hard for me to be consistent and intentional. But I also have kids. I have 4 kids. And so a lot of my attention is being present with them. And when I'm home, that, you know, I want to be mom. You know, life is overwhelming. Sometimes I feel like I'm the mean mom. So I just try to be as present as I can with my kids, because I have 4. I have a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. He's almost 3.
Nice.
So yeah. So it's busy. It's loud. It's crazy. We just got a puppy.
So basically 5.
Yeah. I don't care what people say. Puppies are not as hard as babies. They're hard, but nothing like a baby. But I just try to be as present with them as possible. I just got this book called I Love You Rituals, and it's about like little songs and little like movements and things you can do with your kids, like when you're saying goodbye or when you're putting them to bed. And so starting to implement those kinds of things so that I can make sure that I'm a present mom, because as a busy mom, I have to remind myself a lot to be present with them. So that's a daily thing that I have to do. I have to remind myself to be present today. So I try to wake up before them if I can and have a little bit of time to myself, so that I can be a better presence for them. I don't know if that answered the question, but
I think so. I think that was a really great answer.
Oh, that was
I'm trying
great.
to catch up and have 4 myself. We just have our 1 right now. I told Dr. Nash I'm always
and I got a puppy, or I had a puppy.
Oh, you had a puppy.
Well, he's a dog now, so.
Nothing like a baby. I don't care.
Dennis
what
is wild.
Are you sure?
Wild, though.
Yes,
you have a German
sure.
Shepherd. Okay. Yeah, I'm asking you. Are you sure you've got 4 kids? Like I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Awesome. I kind of had another question too. So, being as knowledgeable as you are about so many different things on health, wellness, and overall reducing as much inflammation and stress on the human body as possible, what's that look like as a mom of 4? You know, are you applying a lot of? I mean, are you getting your kids Dutch tested, or you know, I don't know. I'm just genuinely curious what that looks like for you.
Yeah, so doing as much testing as possible. I haven't tested all of my kids because that would be too overwhelming for me. But
sure.
You know, getting me, like, I do testing with myself, do it with my husband. My husband doesn't listen to me, but I test him. I say, you should be doing this. Actually, if I like laid everything out for him, he would probably do it more consistently. I just, but anyway.
It's hard as a spouse though, because you're like, it's not a patient per se, so it's different. Yeah.
I know.
That's how my wife is too.
Yeah, but getting them adjusted, I mean, I get out my table at home and they just run and jump on it. And that's awesome. Taking herbs, they know, I don't do herbs with them on a daily basis, but they know like, oh, the yucky stuff. I'm like, yep, the yucky stuff, get ready. So, just using those tools, because when you learn about how amazing and beneficial these things are for you, you can't help but want to do them and implement them into your own life. So I think also like I have to practice what I preach. I can't not do this for my family. So my kids are funny. They're always like, Mom, is this healthy? Like a food or something. And I kind of have to explain to them, well, not really, but we don't do this all the time. So it's okay,
right. For sure.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
It's fun to get to like lay this foundation for them, at such a young age.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. It's things that like, when you think about your life now, you're like, I wish I could have started off where you're at now. And I just think about that all the time, and I try as much as I can. I mean, my kid's almost 10 months, so it's not like he's significantly old, but it's those things where I'm like, okay, how much success can I set him up for now? Mm-hmm. And part of that too is taking care of my wife and making sure that she's set up for success. Still breastfeeding, all that kind of stuff exclusively, and all that kind of stuff. So it's huge, I think.
And I think teaching them, then my 9-year-old, my 7-year-old, they get to start making their own decisions. And so if you sort of give them this information, then they're automatically going to make those better decisions. Not always, but I have more confidence that they are going to make better decisions. We don't have soda in the house, and my son will be like, oh man, so-and-so always has it. I'm like, sorry, and so, because of that, he'll tend to pick better options, rather than, we drink water at our house. We don't drink juice and soda and all these things. And so friends come over and they're like, you don't have any juice? Nope. You have some water? Would you like some water? And that's just part of their daily routine. And so they don't know any difference. So they can make better decisions when it comes to those kinds of things. So that's pretty cool to be able to do.
Yeah.
That was Dr. Nash's nickname, the Water Kid.
That was my nickname growing up.
He had a natural instinct.
I hated soda. I go to
that's good though, man.
Yeah, he set up for success too.
I guess so.
I was a soda addict. I mean, I was a soda drinker because it was at the house, and my dad drank it all the time, and so did I. So
it's what you do. The habit.
Well, it's programmed into a lot of like society, like cultural things that it's on. People are watching a lot of TV. It's on like every show. I was watching occasionally I will watch some TV, right? And I was watching an older show. Most listeners on here are probably too young to know what it is. It's called The Sopranos. And in it, every single meal, they literally are drinking like Coca-Cola.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just like thinking like, that's literally disgusting to me. Like you're literally ruining everything you're eating by having that with it. And I don't know.
Yeah. And just thinking now about like the taste, like.
Yeah.
It's pure sugar.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I just always appreciate everything that I see coming from you guys about being proactive, especially with herbs and whatnot. What's your reception been like from? Do you have any referral networks through not just other chiropractors but other people in the medical community, maybe other OBGYNs? Do you have a good relationship with them around you?
I used to. My old practice, man, I had a lot of MDs and DOs and OBGYNs that would refer to me. I have done a poor job of reestablishing that network here in my new area, mostly because in Texas, the medical community is not a fan of chiropractic. And so we have to do I have to go above and beyond sort of market myself to them. And so, but besides that, like, yes, I have definitely referral networks of, like pelvic floor therapists that refer to me, and, other physical therapists, and, just other girls and female business owners that, refer patients to me. So, but yes, building this community is a huge important part of practice, and spreading the Wellness Way message, and helping people to understand how to take care of their bodies. So that is something that I definitely need to do, is I need to reach out to more MDs around me. I actually had it on my to-do list for this month, is to find a more holistic, like, nurse practitioner or somebody to work with, because I often need somebody to send my patients to modify medications, or stuff that I can't do. So but that is important. And in Texas, it's a little tricky. The medical board in Texas decided to come after me. I don't, I'm just one of the lucky ones. So that was a confusing day. It was like, what is this? Why is the medical board sending me a letter? I'm not a medical doctor,
Oh my gosh.
But the scope in Texas is just much more narrow. And so I just have to be a little bit more careful.
For sure. What's it like being like the black sheep like that then too? Because there's a lot of, at least people are pretty receptive here in Michigan, but overall, just in what we do, we become a black sheep. I mean, like, especially today in terms of COVID, but has that been like in your life right now, and where you live and everything?
I mean, it's been hard. I think it's been hard for everybody, right? I don't know who it hasn't been hard for. I don't know who's like, COVID, yay, this is awesome.
Introverts.
But yes. I don't know. From day one, I'm sure y'all felt the same way, but from day one, I was like, something else is going on here. Like, this is very
bullshit
strange.
Alert.
Yeah. Like, this is what's happening. And I never wore a mask in my office. I never shut down my office. I continued to see patients. I wanted to be a resource for them. I wanted to be a comfort to them. I wanted to be like, you can come here and get adjusted still. It's okay. You don't have to be scared. I kind of wanted to be that piece for them, people would call, what's your COVID protocol? I'm like, wash your hands. I don't have any. I just sort of like kept going. I did not change my life, my routine, my practice. I didn't change anything because of it, because I just refused to let it. Like, I'm not going to let this change and alter my environment.
You have people to treat, people to see.
Yeah, like there are more important things in life, and when you narrow, like, put your blinders on and only focus on that one thing, like, you are neglecting so many things, other things that are important in your life and in your world. And, so I sort of just put my head down and looked straight ahead, and I did not change anything. So, that's been hard. Luckily, the Wellness Way allows me to, do virtual consults and things like that. So I was able to still see patients that way. But it's been hard. It's always hard to be a chiropractor and sort of be going against the grain and, kind of standing on this platform of wellness and not that medicine is bad, but there's a time and a place for it. Right. And I would say it's a very small percentage of the time that really you be reaching for it. So it's hard to be in a profession where you're telling people to get off all their medications. Not that we can tell them to do that, at least I can't, but it is definitely a challenge, but it's a challenge I love people coming to me and changing their mind and opening their mind, right? Like, when I had a patient yesterday, she was like, my doctor says I have amazing cholesterol. It's always amazing. And it's like, 130 something. Yeah, it's tanked. And I'm like, okay, all right. Let me give you my perspective. I'm just gonna tell you what how I look at your cholesterol, because I see cholesterol as healing, as a sign that your body is in repair, that if it's low, that means that you're probably having trouble doing those things. Maybe that's why you're feeling so fatigued and blah, blah, blah. And just, okay. I never thought about it that way. So I think it's, I love getting to sort of shake people up and changing their mind and opening their mind. So even though it's hard, I remember at the very beginning of COVID, I posted something about the harmful effects of masks, and like the mob came after me. This girl from college, she's like a radiologist or something, and she was like blowing me up on my feed and said that I just look at Dr. Google, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So, that's hard, putting yourself out there and standing up and saying like, this is silly. Like, why are we doing this? Now I just have empathy for people when I see them wearing a mask. I'm like, oh, you poor thing, you're scared to death and afraid to break the rules. So
lots of times those people are people pleasers, that they just want to
they want to avoid conflict.
Exactly.
Right.
This
has definitely built my conflict builder for sure this entire time, because I'm not like a conflicting person by nature. But I kind of brought it like, you have to be.
Yeah, me either. I got kicked out of many stores.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I am not a person of conflict either, but I was like, I am not going to bow down to this madness. So
and kids I think do that too. I'm sure with you and your 4, but even the moment that I had my son, I was like, absolutely no way. Even if a gun was to my head, that's not an option.
It's just a pathetic way of thinking how the human body is so, I mean, we're not weak. We have such a will to live inside of us, inside of each and every one of us, that Billy DeMoss, we mentioned it on an episode before, where he calls it, coined it allopathetic thinking. And just that perspective that it's, that we are,
I love that.
What you were saying before, I really resonated with that, like being that piece for somebody, that you're strong against, cultural, what everybody's getting day in and day out on their news feeds, on their social media feeds, that we provide that piece and a different perspective, not just on, taking medication, but literally you're not born with the deficiency of not having enough, even anti-anxiety meds or self-regulatory things that, there's certain things that we might be missing in like your actual lifestyle and diet, but ultimately you don't need these consistently, chronically all the time. Right. I had a question more and I don't want to run you too long, Dr. Beth, but I did have a question as far as, do you get many men that come by to get, panels tested or anything like that? And what do those really look like when you're seeing males in your practice?
Yeah, I do. I do get men in my practice. Not nearly as often. And I guess I have my theories on that, but I actually love when guys come in, because it's usually so simple for men.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you find that, Dr. Gates, but when they come in, I'm like, I can
drop 40 pounds in like a month. And
I can almost predict like what their lab is going to look like. And I lay it out for them, and, whether they're willing to follow those instructions or not. But every now and then I get a guy that's not necessarily improving like I thought he would. But guys are usually so easy. I love when guys come in, because I'm like, this is going to be slam dunk. Like, you're going to feel so good. You're going to look awesome. You're going to feel great. Testosterone's going to go up. You're going to be doing awesome. So, yes, they do come in. We can still do testing on them. Usually it's at their wife calls and schedules the appointment for them. But the other day, actually, I had a new patient because the husband called and said, I want to schedule for my wife. That was a first. I think she was dragging her feet, and he was like, you need to stop dragging your feet. You need to do this. Yeah. So, but guys are awesome when they come in. Usually it's super easy.
My favorite is on the new patient paperwork, and they say, my wife told me to come in.
Yeah.
And literally just, why are you here? My wife told me to come in.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
That's awesome.
All right, Dr. Beth, we don't want to keep you too long because we know you got some other priorities that you go to. So we really appreciate us having you. No, I botched that. I'm sorry. We appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for sharing some of your wisdom, your insight, and all things health and wellness, and just everything that you do down there for the people of Texas, obviously, as well. Where can people find you at on social media and everything?
On Instagram, at Dr. Beth Cook. Yeah, I am on Facebook, The Wellness We Spring. Not as active on Facebook, so if you want to catch me on Instagram.
Catch them on the reels.
Yep. I gotta make some. I haven't made any.
Perfect. Well, all right, Dr. Beth, thank you so much. Dr. Nash, do you have any closing thoughts or anything for us?
No, just keep on being an inspiration, not just for us, but for upcoming docs and upcoming female docs to really go out there and keep on changing the world one person at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Beth.